I've been meaning to have a day like this in the vlog for really the last 3 or 4 days, where I'm just talking, that's all, but just interesting things come up. So just to forewarn you, today's vlog is just going to be us talking about today's passage. Today is day 250, and I had a goal for myself that I would reach day 250 before 2021. Today is December 31st of 2020, so we've reached that goal. Great job. The book of Haggai is a very short book, but really important in the history of Israel. In chapter 1, we see the prophet Haggai, and we know according to the book of Ezra, along with Zechariah, which we're going to be studying the next 2 days, that they're calling the people to resume the rebuilding of the temple, that the reason why the people, they're laboring so hard and they're working so hard, but there's little to no fruit being produced, is because they have inappropriately prioritized their own livelihood above rebuilding the temple. There's a phrase used 2 times in this chapter, and that phrase is "consider your ways." And this is something really important for us to do in terms of our priorities. Where do our priorities lie? And it was clear with the people that their priorities lied with building their own homes and their own livelihood before ever being a part of what God was trying to build, being a part of building God's house, God's temple, and God's kingdom. We then see at the end of chapter 1 that the people respond in obedience and they begin the rebuilding process. And chapter 2 shows us that as they're beginning to rebuild the process, or beginning to rebuild the temple, that there's this sorrow that they have because they're reminded of the former glory of the previous temple. This would make sense as to why we see in Ezra when the people are, there's this mix of celebration as well as crying, that this cry would have been because of they're reminded of that former glory. But in this book, through Haggai, God reassures them that the glory of this temple will be greater than the previous temple, even though the previous temple was pretty awesome. Chapter 2 continues with God reminding the people that His blessing them was not necessarily predicated on them because they had proven throughout their history that they are a defiled people, but that He was still going to bless them and pour His blessing upon them anyways. The book ends with Zerubbabel being chosen as a signet ring of the Lord, kind of like the Lord's anointed, that God was going to use Zerubbabel in His leadership in the process of reconstructing the temple, as well as other things throughout the kingdom. There is a lot that we can pull from this book, but one of the things that really sticks out is, once again, this focus on the house, the presence, the dwelling of God. While God was not confined to or limited to the human measurements that would be the temple and the Temple Mount, it most certainly represented His dwelling. When we consider God's dwelling today, we know that according to the New Testament, that those of us who trust and believe in Him as Lord and Savior, that He lives within us, like the wonder and mystery and awe of God living inside of us is just incredible. And it just is an awesome and continuous reminder, and something that we've talked, I know, a lot about on the vlog, but I feel like the things that are talked about the most are things that we should pay attention to the most, and that's the priority on the presence of God. There is nothing better than abiding in the presence of God, just hanging out with God, spending time with God, and that's what it's really all about. And to be honest with you, that's really all that I have for today.